The word racist has long been the most damning slur in American life, and for good reason. It's hard to think of anything crueler or more unfair than discriminating against someone because of the color of his skin. You don't control the color of your skin. Nobody likes racists. Nobody wants to be called a racist. The left knows that, so they use the word as a cudgel to beat their political opponents into submission and have their way. They've done this so often and for so many years that over time the word racist has lost a lot of its power. It's dulled from overuse. The left needs a new attack line, a new way to make you shut up and obey. Now they've found one. Watch former Georgia politician Stacey Abrams deploy it against White House advisor Stephen Miller.
What about the man who's also really leading this for the White House, Stephen Miller? He is spearheading the immigration agenda, and Congresswoman Ilhan Omar actually referred to him as a white nationalist. Do you agree with her?
I believe that what we have seen from Stephen Miller is vestiges of white nationalism.
White nationalism. Let's be literal for a minute. What is that exactly? Abrams didn't say, she didn't have to say. The phrase hits you in the gut, not the head. It evokes images from a nightmare. Detention camps, deportation trains, mass killing. It's terrifying. You'd rather be called a cannibal than a white nationalist. And of course, that is exactly the point. That's why they say it.
We have a white nationalist president who's a threat to American democracy.
It's the language of white nationalist, European splinter, hard right, crazy town parties, and we haven't heard it in our politics in a long time.
It's going to be Stephen Miller, and his sort of white nationalist tendencies are really obvious. You can't even dress that up.
I don't think it's a stretch for a lot of Americans out there to wonder whether or not the president is secretly considering himself a white nationalist.
Again, you'll notice that none of these dumb people pause even for a second to explain to you what a white nationalist is. You probably still don't know, and honestly, neither do we, and that's because there are so very few of them in this country. There are probably about as many legitimate white nationalists in America as there are Russian spies. You could live your entire life here without running into a white nationalist. No matter what they tell you, this is a remarkably kind and decent country. What's telling is that according to the left, only certain people qualify for the title white nationalist. You just heard Stephen Miller denounced as one for his support of the temporary family separation at the U.S. border. But it turns out the Obama administration did essentially the very same thing to immigrant families, split them up. Are they white nationalists too? Well, watch CNN's Samantha Vinograd explain.
And when President Obama separated children from their family's wealth, or from adults' wealth, it was for their protection.
Right.
It was if there was a risk of trafficking or other kind of harm that might have been incurred.
So just to recap, those of you keeping track at home, when Obama did it, it was for their protection, Wolf. When Trump does it, it's white nationalism. How does this work exactly? Well, Candace Owens unraveled the mystery yesterday in testimony before Congress. Watch.
There isn't a single adult today that in good conscience would make the argument that America is a more racist or a more white nationalist society than it was when my grandfather was growing up. And yet we're hearing these terms sent around today because what they want to say is that brown people need to be scared, which seems to be the narrative that we hear every 4 years right ahead of a presidential election.
Aha. That's the answer. It's election season. The left has nothing to sell, nothing that will make your life better. So instead, they whip up race hatred and fear. Scared people vote. Just tell them the other side wants to put them in camps or murder them, and they'll show up at the polls and vote for you, however reluctantly. The left has known this for a long time. They've been doing it for generations. They're more explicit about it now than they ever have been. But what's the cost of campaigning like this? Democracies succeed when they're built on the belief that we're all in this together. When they become tests of strength between two groups that hate each other, they fall apart. Attacking people for their race is exactly how you destroy a country. That's what Democrats are doing. They know they're doing it. It's obvious. They just don't care.